Hare Krishna. So welcome back everyone to our daily Gita classes. We are going to be speaking from chapter 1 entitled Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukshetra, and we're going to be speaking from on text number 23. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Ajnana-timirandasya
Om Ajnana-timirandasya
Jnananjana Shalakaya
Jnananjana-shalakaya
Chakshurunmilitam Yena
Chakshurunmilitam Yena
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam
Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam
Sthapitam Yena Bhutale
Sthapitam Yena Bhutale
Swayam Rupa Kadamayam
Swayam Rupa Kadamaya
Dadati Swapadantikam.
Dadati Swapadantikam.
He Krishna Karuna Sindhu
Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu
Deenabandhu Jagatpate
Deenabandhu Jagatpate
Gopesha Gopika Kanta
Gopesha Gopikakanta
Radha Kanta Namostute
Radhakanta Namostute
Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi
Saptakanchana Gaurani
Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari
Radhe Vrindavaneshwari
Rishabhanusute Devi
Shabhanusute Devi
Pranamami Hari Priye
Pranamami Hari Priye
Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha
Kripasindhubhya eva cha
Patitanam Pavanebhyo
Patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda
Prabhu Nityananda
Shri Advaita Gadadhara
Shri Advaita Gadadhara
Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Okay, so text number 23, chapter 1. Yodsamana navekshaham
Yotsamana-navekshaham
yat ete atra samagata
ya-ete-tasmata
dhartarashtraya durbuddhir
Dhartarashtraya-durbuddhe
yude priya chikirsava
Yuddhe-priya-chikishava
Yodsamana navekshaham
Yotsamana-navekshaham
ya ete atra samagata
ya-ete-atra-samagataha
dhartarashtrasya durbuddhir
Dhartarashtraya-durbuddhe
yude priya chikirsava
Yuddhe-priya-chikishava
Yodsamana navekshaham
Yotsamana-navekshaham
yad ete atra samagata
ya-ete-atra-samagataha
dhartarashtrasya durbuddhe
Dhartarashtraya-durbuddhe
yude priya chikirsava
Yuddhe-priya-chikishava
Yodsamana navekshaham ya etratra samagata dhartarashtrasya durbuddhe yude priya chikirsava
Yotsamana-navekshaham
Yodsamana navekshaham
ya-ete-atra-samagataha
etratra samagata
Dhartarashtraya-durbuddhe
dhartarashtraya durbuddhir
Yuddhe-priya-chikishavaha
yude priya chikirsava
Yotsamana-navekshaham
योत्स्यमाननवेक्षेऽहं य एतेऽत्र समागता धातराष्ट्रस्य धुर्बुद्धेर् युद्धे प्रिया चिकीर्षवा योत्स्यमाननवेक्षेऽहं य एतेऽत्र समागता धातराष्ट्रस्य दुर्बुद्धेर् युद्धे प्रिया चिकीर्षवा योत्स्यमाननवेक्षेऽहं यत्रे तत्र समागता धातराष्ट्रस्य दुर्बुद्धेर् युद्धे प्रिया चिकीर्षवा. Word for word translation. Yotsamanan, those who will be willing to fight, those who will be fighting. Avekshe, let me see. Aham, I. Ye, who. Ete, those. Atra, here. Samagata, assembled. Dhata Rashtrasya, for the sons of Dhritarashtra. Durbuddhe, evil minded. Yuddhe, in the fight. Priya, well. Chikirsava, wishing. Okay. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay. Translation. Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. Purport. It was an open secret that Duryodhana wanted to usurp the kingdom of the Pandavas by evil plans in collaboration with his father Dhritarashtra. Therefore, all persons who had joined the side of Duryodhana must have been birds of the same feather. Arjuna wanted to see them on the battlefield before the fight was begun, just to learn who they were. But he had no intention of proposing peace negotiations with them. It was also a fact that he wanted to see them to make an estimate of the strength which he had to face, although he was quite confident of victory because Krishna was sitting by his side. Okay? So, Yotsyaman aveksheham ya etyatra samagata dhatarashtrasya durbuddhe yuddhe priya chikersava. So, in this point of the conversation that's happening, or in this point of where the camera is being zoomed at in the battlefield. So what has happened is, in the last previous two verses, Arjuna tells Krishna to take the chariot into the middle of the battlefield. For what reason? So if you look at what was written in the last one, the last shlok, it says, Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. So this is the two main points that are going to be covered. One is we are going to understand what is Arjuna's request like. That it highlights the importance of always trying to align with righteousness. What do we mean by that? So Arjuna's approach when he faced the Kaurava army, when he saw the Kaurava army, it contrasts with how Duryodhana approached when he saw the Pandava army. So when Duryodhana had already started strategizing and motivating and diplomatically trying his best to mask his fear and restore confidence in himself and his army, just because he saw the external strength of the Pandava army, he tried to become very manipulative. He tried to become very diplomatic with his teacher Dronacharya. But now on the other side, we have Arjuna's response. Now Arjuna, he's more concerned as to understand the motivations and the determination of the opposite army, that they were ready to lay down their lives for Duryodhana's sake. He was, he was quite taken aback as to how big the Kaurava army actually was. The Kaurava army was 11 Akshauhini and the Pandavas are 7. And so Arjuna thought that we are the virtuous ones, we are the righteous people. So, how come we have a smaller army? Who are those people who gave their support to Duryodhan to such an extent that they are ready to lay their lives down on the battlefield? Who are these people? So, Arjuna thought that these people must be as evil as Duryodhan is himself. That's why Prabhupada writes in the purport that therefore all persons who had joined the side of Duryodhana, so Arjuna says Durbuddhe, means wicked minded or wicked, the one with bad intelligence. So everyone on that side is all of that same category. He painted them black and white. If on this side we have the righteous, which is like the white color, and then you have on the side the Kauravas, which are like the black color. But now what we'll see is he then, when he asks Krishna to take the chariot in the middle of the battlefield, then his perceptions will start to change. He will not see it as black and white. He will see it as many shades of grey. So his question is, how could all of these people support Duryodhana? So he wanted to really ask this question, are the people who are fighting on Duryodhana's sake, are they genuinely supporting him, or are they fighting with a half-hearted determination? That's what he wanted to see. He wanted to see that if the people who are half-hearted, then there is chance, there is ability. But if the people who are so genuinely wanting to fight for his welfare, then he wants to also know that strength. So he's strategizing in that sense. So the question is asked as to why is that many people actually sided with Duryodhan. So one of the reasons that has been given is that people like to bet on a winning horse. When people found out that, oh, Duryodhan has got a bigger army, and understand in the Mahabharata, what has happened is that for 13 years, the Pandavas don't have a kingdom. Duryodhan was considered to be the emperor of the world at this time. So he had massive influence over all the kings of the time at that time. So everyone thought, what will the Pandavas do? They have been in exile for 13 years. How will they even get an army? How will they even be able to challenge the Kauravas? So even though they might have sympathized with the Pandavas, because they thought that the Kaurava army is bigger and better, and the fact that it has got the backing of Bhishmadev, Dronacharya, Karna, they all bet that the Kauravas will win. No one likes to be on the losing side. So that is one of the reasons that has been given. Another reason is Duryodhana had, of course, expert political skills, political alliances, and manipulation skills. He basically spun the story so much that he tried to make it sound like that he was not the victim. Yeah, he's not the one who perpetrated this. Actually, he is not to blame for the Pandavas' plight. He is the victim. Yeah, he spun the story so much to everyone that everyone got convinced that actually he was right all along. So this is Duryodhana's tactics. So this is why many people ended up, or the Kaurava army ended up with the bigger force. But as part of this army, you also have people who are half-hearted, and yet they still took the side of the Kauravas. And two people that Arjuna really looked up to, but who are fighting on the other side, were Bhishmadev and Dronacharya. So now Arjuna had already made that assumption that everyone who is fighting on the Kaurava army are all birds of the same feather. So they all must be wicked. But then when he sees on the other army that there is people like Bhishmadev the people like Dronacharya, who he really looks up to, now he cannot reconcile in this head of his, that how is it that all the people on the other side are bad with the fact that there's also people who I really look up to. That I really look up to Bhishma Dev, I really look up to Dronacharya. And this inability to reconcile these two thoughts is what is going to cause his fall into a moral dilemma, into an existential crisis. And this is what Krishna uses to basically cement Arjuna's fall into illusion, just like a play. Not that Arjuna is ever in illusion. Arjuna is a pure devotee of the Lord, but because the Lord wants to speak the Gita, he makes Arjuna come into illusion, and this is the start of that point. Because up until now, everything has been sure. Even Sanjay has been saying that all the signs of victory are there on the Pandava side. No matter that the Kaurava army is greater in strength, greater in force, but all the signs are there for the Pandavas to win. So if you look all the way from the first text till text number 20, all of it is showing that the Pandavas are going to win. And all of a sudden now, from 21 all the way to the end of the chapter, now we see that there is an entire change, a plot twist. There's a plot twist. And now we see that Arjuna, the most formidable warrior on the side of the Pandavas, is now going to undergo an existential crisis. So as I said, Arjuna had an intention. When he came out to the battlefield, he had the intention of fighting. That's why he blew his conch shell. It is said just in a few verses before that Arjuna had already blown his conch shell. That indicates that he already had the intention to fight. But then there is a change in perception. So when he saw his venerable elders on the side of Adharma, this changed his intention to fight. And then we'll see how he slides down. So in this shlok, we see that he thinks that everyone on the Kaurava side are just like the evil-minded Duryodhan. And then a few shloks we see that he sees Dronacharya and Bhishma Dev on the other side. And then he gets destabilized when he sees this. And then he destabilized so much that by the end of the chapter he says that I don't want to fight. So you can see the fall of his composure, because he's gone in more and more into illusion. Yeah? But the Gita wisdom, that the whole Gita is taught for this purpose. Is taught about for this purpose, to lift one from this illusion. So how does Krishna help to bring Arjuna out of this illusion? First he tells them, he gives them Atmagyan. So he gives the knowledge that all that you see, they are all not your relatives, but they are eternal souls on their own respective journeys. And when you kill them, it's not that you're killing the soul, you're killing the body. And it's good, because the people, those souls that are currently occupying these bodies, they are so degraded that they are so entangled in their material reactions that the only way to save them is to kill them. So he gives that this sort of understanding. Yeah? And then more than that, he gives that you're not fighting for your benefit. You're fighting it because it is my desire that you fight, and you get the glory. You are basically becoming an instrument for me. So this knowledge expands Arjuna's vision so much that it even expands beyond the battlefield. Because at the end of the Gita, Arjuna doesn't say that I will fight. No, he just gives a plain statement that I will do as you say, whether it's be on the battlefield or beyond the battlefield. So the end of the Gita is not meant just to get you to fight in the war. It's meant for you to align yourself completely with the divine. So that is the first point of how Arjuna got confused. And how we can see from the start of this that Arjuna is starting to be bewildered and to get illusioned. Now it's very interesting that Arjuna uses the word Durbuddhe. So what does Durbuddhe mean? It's made up of two words. Dur means bad and Buddhi or Buddher comes from the word Buddhi, which means intelligence. So Durbuddhe means wicked intelligence or bad intelligence. So what does this highlight? This word highlights Duryodhana's unjust ambition to usurp the Pandavas' kingdom by disregarding their rightful claims and moral considerations. So if you look at the whole story of the Mahabharata, so between the Pandavas and Kauravas, who was born first? Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir was born first, and Pandu was actually the king of the kingdom. So naturally, Yudhishthir is a rightful heir to the Kuru kingdom. And so when Yudhishthir and the Pandavas came back from the forest after King Pandu died, naturally they were expected to take on the throne once Yudhishthir Maharaj became of age. So in the meantime, Dhritarashtra was the acting king. But Duryodhana had always had his sights based on the throne. So Duryodhana comes up with many strategies to try and eliminate the Pandavas. And one of such strategies is Varnavat, the Lakshagra, the fire of the wax palace. So in that episode, it seemed as if that Duryodhana had succeeded, because by Krishna's Leela, the five Pandavas and Kunti Maharani managed to escape, and another set of five boys and one mother went inside the palace. So when the Kauravas came to check whether that actually accomplished their mission, they saw the bones and they saw the flesh of six people and five young and like men sculptures and one frail woman structure. So they thought that they had succeeded. They thought that the Pandavas and Kunti Maharani are dead. But what happened is that actually they escaped and they went into hiding. So Pandavas and Kunti Maharani went into hiding. And they went into hiding for such a long time that people actually thought that they were no more there. But they were revealed when? During Draupadi's Swayamvar. When Arjuna, disguised as a Brahmana, won the hand of Draupadi in the Swayamvar. And it was such a difficult task that everyone concluded that the only person who was capable of doing this was Arjuna himself. And so when they were revealed during this episode, at that time Dhritarashtra had told Duryodhana that now we cannot afford to have enmity with the Pandavas, because now they have Drupad and the Panchal Desh as their allies, and they are very strong. So we have to be smart. We have to welcome them back into like they have to resurface to the public. And so when they were welcomed back, at that time there was a compromise that was reached, that Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana will get half the Kuru kingdom and the other half was going to be given to Yudhishthir Maharaj. So now Yudhishthir Maharaj and the Pandavas got the half of the Kuru kingdom, which was like a desert area, which is like the Khanda forest. They were given the Khanda forest. And with the skills and virtues of the Pandavas, they were able to transform this Khanda Prasht, this barren land, into such a magnificent and flourishing kingdom called Indraprasth. And seeing this, now this is where Duryodhana could have said, okay, I can be happy that I've got half the kingdom. But no, Duryodhana had a wicked mentality. He could not give up the greed nor the envy that he had towards the Pandavas. When he saw the Indraprasth during the Rajasuya Yagna of Yudhishthir Maharaj, that after he created his kingdom and he made it such a wonderful kingdom, such a powerful kingdom, that he was able to do a Rajasuya Yagna and become the emperor of the world, again, Duryodhana's greed, envy went so many fold. And the reason why is in the Mahabharata, we see so many stories in this particular chapter that when Yudhishthira Maharaj was doing the Rajasuya Yagna, do you know what post he gave Duryodhana to do? He gave Duryodhan the post of counting the gifts that are being received by all the different kings. And so Duryodhana was kept in charge of counting so many different tons and tons of gold that Yudhishthira Maharaj was getting from all the different kings. And this was burning him from inside. It was burning him that how much wealth is Yudhishthira Maharaj getting because of this Rajasuya Yagna. And then of course Indraprasth was designed by Maya Danav. So it was all illusory. And so wherever there was land, it was actually water. And where they appeared water was actually land. And then because of this illusion, he fell into water, thinking it to be land. And for some reason, some maid servants laughed, and he heard that laughter, and that humiliation really burned his heart. This episode of the Rajasuya Yagna of Yudhishthira Maharaj really inflamed Duryodhana inside him, inside his heart. And so he decided to try and usurp the kingdom of the Pandavas, Indraprasth. And so then we have the episode of the Youth Sabha or the gambling match, in which even after taking over the entire kingdom of the Pandavas, he was not done. He went ahead and insulted and dishonored Draupadi. So we can understand how much of a wicked mind Duryodhana was. So the question then comes is, where does this wicked mind even come from? How does it even start? So from Duryodhana we can understand that it comes when we start to misuse our intelligence, that we are not using our intelligence to serve righteousness, to serve dharma, but instead we are using it to serve our selfish greed. In the Ishopanishad, in the introduction or in the invocation, it is said that Iva Ishavashyam idam sarvam. That means everything that is animate and inanimate, it all belongs to the Supreme. And then what? Tena tyaktena bunjita. That we should accept whatever is assigned by the Lord. Like when we start to encroach upon somebody else's property, automatically we are committing sinful activities, because we are going to get whatever has been ordained to us by the laws of karma under the direction of Krishna. Yeah, we don't want sadness, we don't want suffering. Yes, suffering will come one way or the other. So why do we keep on saying we don't want suffering and we don't want it to come as it is, and we don't say the same thing when happiness comes unannounced? Why don't we come and say that whenever we are happy, we start to be morose and say, oh, what did I do to deserve this happiness? Happiness comes of its own accord, and suffering will also come of its own accord. So because this is all predestined by our karma, it's all predestined by our reactions. Whatever is going to come to us will come to us. That is why sometimes if you see, some person might not be working so hard, yet he becomes very lucky and becomes very blessed with wealth. And another person who is slogging away day and night will only be earning a few morsels of food at the end of the day, just because it might not be in his karmic bank balance to be able to get extreme wealth. So instead of over endeavoring to try and mitigate our suffering, we should be smart. We should be able to understand that everything is owned by Krishna, and actually he is the enjoyer. We are not the enjoyers. Yeah, as it says in Bhagavad Gita, Poktaram Yoga Tapasam Sarva Loke Maheshwaram. Because we have forgotten this concept of divine ownership. this is the reason it has caused an increase in selfish greed. And when we have an increase in selfish greed, what happens is our buddhi is utilized in over endeavoring and in useless economic development, which is not going to benefit us in the long term. So the best use of buddhi is to basically dovetail it to the will of Krishna and to engage in our eternal occupation as servants of the Lord. Okay, and the only way we do that is through devotional service. And the prime duty or prime act in devotional service is doing Shravanam and Kirtanam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Any questions, any comments? Shrimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.